Hey, welcome to the Baco Power Hour. I'm Mike Griffith, Bakersfield, California Motorsports writer, and this is our fourth year of doing the Power Hour, where we talk about national stuff, international stuff in the first segment, and then concentrate on our three local spectator tracks, which would be Bakersfield Speedway, Kern County Raceway Park, and Auto Club Famoso Raceway. And I've got Aaron Stewart in for this first segment. How you doing, Aaron?
I'm doing good, thank you.
Aaron joins us instead of Scott Schweitzer.
Yep,
You're Scott's understudy.
I am.
So-
if I keep getting called up to the majors, I'm gonna want a jersey soon.
You have to talk to Scott about that. I think he should get you one, at least a Bakersfield Speedway T-shirt. So there you go. So this is the first segment. We talk about stuff. Derek Thorne, real quickly, might as well talk about it now. His picture's up there. He raced in Washington at a big Evergreen Speedway, $25,000 to win race, much like early on at the showdown, the winter showdown at KCRP to start the season. Led practice, qualified number one, led the race, flat tire about 30 laps in.
Yeah, you can always count on something going wrong when you're leading.
And then 2 laps down, and because he was 2 laps down, he never got a lucky dog. So, and then he had another tire was flat at the end of the race. So fast, but no cigar for Derek up there in Washington. Preston Peltier used to be from Frazier Park, won that race. He races out of North Carolina these days. He's back there and late model racer, and he won the $25,000 race up there. But that's bad luck for Derek. Derek had a flat tire at Madera a few weeks ago in a race that Buddy Shepard won, Southwest Tour race, Buddy's first win of the season. So Derek Thorne, you can be fast, but you got to have. He's always said you got to have luck in racing, and you do.
Yeah, and just those flat tires will bite you when you least expect them.
Things like that. So we had a little race at Indianapolis this weekend. First of all, we want to talk about the Fast Trip Motorsports All-Area team. It's going to be our third year of doing that this year, and I was catching up on some of the drivers. You win a couple drag races, you're in. Win 3 roundy round races, you're in, dirt or oval. And I was kind of catching up on that. And I think we're about 25 drivers. Plus, there'll be some riders. We've got 3 very good young amateur motocross riders who are doing well once again, all under the age of 16, and they're doing well all over the country. So they're going to be in again. So last year we had 60 drivers/riders. So we'll be somewhere around that 50 to 60 mark again. So that'll publish sometime in December. Not sure of the exact date yet, but we'll have photos, recaps of the racetracks, and a good little 4-piece section we put out. So, moving on to NASCAR, we had the Brickyard 400, and got to hold it on this shot because that's the Perdoga up there on the far. Well, there was a little sandwich gate on that during qualifying when Kevin Harvick's spotter was up there, and apparently was tossing a sandwich. I imagine a Jimmy John's sandwich. But I don't know whether he dropped it or was trying to toss it to somebody else to give him one. But anyway, it sailed off the top, which drew the ear of some IMS officials who came up. And so Harvick's tooling around the track, and he's talking to his spotter saying, hey, you're going to have to get somebody else up here. They just pulled my hard card.
Yeah, and a hard card is their credential. If they lose that, they're not allowed to be on the tower anymore. So they ejected Harvick's spotter. They
ejected his spotter. But that was rectified, and certain apologies were probably made or whatever, but the hard card was returned. The spotter was back in his spotting spot.
I'm sorry I dropped my ham and cheese on you.
For the start of the race. And this is the start of the race, and Kyle Busch there on the outside, the pole sitter, and Kevin Harvick second. That's about as high as Harvick ran during the race. And interesting, if you notice the clouds in the background, well, they got a few laps in. They're going to have a competition yellow because it rained the night before. They stopped the race because of lightning coming. It poured, it quit, and they restarted the race. But they lost a lot of time, and so which pushed to darkness when it was finished, which we'll talk about a little in. So we can go on to the next slides here. And obviously, the start of the race there is Busch jumping out to the lead. Dominant car was Kyle Busch and the 78 of Martin Truex. And I think the next slide we have is, yes, indeed, they got together. Truex was low in the corner. Back end got loose, took out Busch. 2 quickest cars who were far quicker than anybody else, just had the track dialed in. They went out, and Mr. Truex, he had to climb out of his car, which was on fire. He was okay, just quick little flash fire. There certainly looks frightening, and if you're in there, it's got to be hot.
Yeah, and it certainly changes the spectrum of a race when you lose both your front two cars who have been dominant. Then all of a sudden, the floodgates just open for anybody to really capitalize.
Kind of floodgates open, and a little pit strategy. And it worked out for this man, Casey Kane, who pitted a little earlier than anybody else, and then he ended up getting track position, and he ended up winning. Interesting here, there were 2 late restarts. One where Kane was on the outside, and he waited till the last second to go, and he thought that Keselowski on the inside got a little better jump. Keselowski had to lead. Well, there was a crash behind him because this turned into the Demolition Derby 400. And so there's another restart. And now they're pushing darkness because this race has taken almost 6 hours. It started late. It rained. And they're pushing darkness. And the only way you could see it, TV, it didn't look too dark because they opened up the irises and it looks like it's bright. But it was getting sunset time. And there's another restart. So Keselowski chose the outside, but he didn't get a very good restart this time. Casey Kane did. So they're racing down the backstretch. They're coming up on the overtime line where if they reach it, the white flag will come out and there won't be another restart. Well, there's a crash behind them. Tick, tick, tick. Top 2 guys get to the overtime line. NASCAR finally throws the yellow because they did not know. My personal opinion, it was dark.
They were desperate to get that race over.
It was a good race over. And so Casey Kane gets his first win, and we all know that there's all kinds of rumors of him not being back next year.
That was an important win for him. He hadn't won since 2014 at Atlanta. And so it was good for him to get back on the top of the podium.
Yeah, and the kissing bricks, it looks light. Oh, because there's flash on this photo, because if they didn't use flash, it would have been dark. So, and the interesting thing is Casey Kane's one of the fittest guys in the garage. Does triathlons, all kinds of things. He was ill when he got out of the car, totally exhausted. He was basically ready to fall down during the TV interview, sat down for more interviews, and then they took him to the infield care center and got some IVs in him and stuff. So this just tells when you're in a car for 6 hours, it's hot and humid, even no matter how fit you are, it can be really draining, and it drained him. But a good win for Casey Kane. So I think we've got Kevin Harvick finished 6th, another solid finish for him. Real quickly, show the points there. Real quickly, Dale Earnhardt's last Brickyard 400, and lots of news this week breaking out all times. Dale Earnhardt's going to be working for NBC next year on his retirement. So in the booth, and they're talking about some other stuff too. And if you follow Dale Earnhardt on Twitter, he's a fun follow. He's got a lot of I think he's an interesting guy. I think he would add a good perspective to a variety of sports. I think he's going to be really good for NBC. So he signed that deal the day after the Brickyard it was announced. So
yeah, there's no way he wasn't going to end up in a booth somewhere. There were so many people who would want him up there, and
yeah,
he was going to end up somewhere.
Yeah, he's just got a great personality. I think it's going to work out well. Here's the official points: Martin Truex, Kyle Larson, Kevin Harvick, Kyle Busch, and Denny Hamlin. However, the real playoff points are Martin Truex, 3 wins. Jimmy Johnson, who's 10th in regular points, 3 wins. Kyle Larson, 2 wins. Keselowski, 2 wins. Steinhaus, 2 wins. Harvick, 1 win. 12 drivers with wins. So they're all ahead of Kyle Busch, who's actually 13th in playoff points right now because he does not yet have a win. All those points in the parentheses are stage wins. So 12 of the 16 playoff spots are already determined because of wins, and we still have some races to go.
Yeah, it's possible that we could end up with over 16 cars with wins the way it's going. I mean, we still got fast cars, Kyle Busch especially, without wins yet.
You got Joey Logano, who had a win taken away, encumbered. I hate that. Just take the win away, take their points away, and done with it.
Yeah, I mean,
whatever. Give the win to somebody
local
else.
Racing, if you get disqualified for anything, you weren't there that night.
You weren't there that
night.
night.
No money, no points.
And that's another opinion. That's the way it ought to be in NASCAR. So anyway, more NASCAR news. Keselowski re-upped with Penske, and you just noted on your feed that Penske is going to be a 3-car team next year.
They're bringing back the number 12 car, and they're actually bringing Ryan Blaney over from the Wood Brothers to drive for their 3rd team.
So there you go. And this is the time of the season when things starts happening and rides start changing and going.
That opened up the Wood Brothers seat, and it looked like that Paul Menard will be going over to the Wood Brothers. So that'll open up a seat at Childress.
There you go.
Which I'm expecting to go to a certain Dillon brother.
One would expect that to happen. So if it's all about sponsorship in NASCAR
And family.
and family, ask Casey Kane et al. Others. William Byron kissing the bricks in the Xfinity Series. This guy is the hottest driver on the Xfinity Series right now. Third win of the season for him. Ryan Reed of Bakersfield finished sixth. Another solid run for Ryan. Elliott Sadler, William Bryan, Justin Allgaier, Brennan Poole, and Daniel Hemmick. Nope, it's really Byron, Allgaier, Reed, Sadler, and Poole. So you got to figure out the NASCAR points.
There's a lot of work to figure out points right now.
Yeah, it's like, really, let's just do the playoff points. So anyway, on with that. NHRA, they started the Western Swing in Denver. We got a picture of Ms. Forrest there in the funny car. She did not win. Her teammate, Robert Hyde, got a win. First win for him this year for John Forrest Racing. His first win, I think 13 wins now, 13 seasons in a row that Robert's got a win. Salvaged the day for John Forrest because everybody else went out first round on the John Forrest team. So they go to Sonoma this weekend. Steve Torrance leads the points in Top Fuel, followed by Ms. Pritchett, Mr. Brown, Mr. Schumacher, and Mr. Coletta. And over on Funny Car, it's Ron Capps, Matt Hagan, and Fast Jack Beckman. And Robert Hyde is fourth in points, but he's got a win now, so good for Robert. So really wanted to salvage the season. He's been frustrated. He's run well, and actually he didn't run. He won a couple of races because other people did worse than him in the early rounds. He had a pedal fest one round, I think, but good for them.
Yeah, you could definitely see something turn around now. Sometimes it just takes that one win to
takes
help
that,
turn
and now we're
everything
getting
around,
down. What you
momentum
did
up.
earlier really doesn't matter. Now's when you're kind of gearing up for the end run of the season, and what are you going to have going into the chase? It's like NASCAR. Who's going to be hot going into the chase? That's where it's just get there and see who's hot. IndyCar news. We have a new IndyCar bodywork for next year. This is a Honda, a little easier to show because the Chevy was all blue and you couldn't see the highlights. This is more of a what they're calling a retro look back to the 90s, a little swoopier, I think. And as people are saying, it looks more like an IndyCar. It looks more like a race car. I've never liked the current bodywork that's been around for the past couple of years on the IndyCars. I think they're ugly, using a polite term. They race well at Indianapolis. It's been a great race, so what they've done it has worked. But this is the new Honda, and they tested. There was a test on Monday and did well. A little more downforce created underneath the chassis, a little less downforce on the front wing and stuff. So a big difference there, and it'll be interesting to see how those cars race in 2018. But I like the looks. So
yeah, it looks a lot like what they used to run late 90s. The rear wing's a bit lower than they used to run, but that's just evolution.
Yeah. Yeah, but it looks a little swoopier. I like the roll hoop, the cage, the hoop. I like the way that looks. Not as boxy. It's just, I like the look. So there you go. New IndyCar. So that's it for the first segment here. We're going to come back with the Bakersfield Speedway segment, and Aaron Stewart will talk about all the racing that happened last week at the Third Mile Dirt Track.